So, you or someone you love just recovered from COVID, or maybe they still have it and they're asymptomatic and they're like, hey, I'm gonna go get a workout and I feel completely fine. Well, if this is you, then please watch this because you or your loved one might be placing their life at risk. So the WHO reports that the vast majority of people who get COVID will pass through it without any complications or symptoms. Yet, people who have recovered have been showing signs of muscle fatigue, heart palpitations, breathlessness. The reason I'm making this video is because I am one of those people. So I tested positive for COVID-19 on the 22nd of November. After 14 days of what I would call mild symptoms at best, I finally tested negative. So after being stuck in my room for 12 days, I was sick of it and I was like, I want to get a workout in. So I started what I considered to be a mild workout. 2 sets in, I found myself feeling dizzy, breathless, and my heart beating out of my chest. I had heard the stories of people going for a run after they'd recovered from COVID and collapsing, and in some cases people even dying. But I felt like I was stronger than them. I felt like I was above them. I'm a fitness guy, I've been doing this for a while. I know what I'm doing. Fortunately, I stopped before testing this hypothesis to its fullest extent. We know this disease targets the lungs and the heart and can cause damage to these organs without you even realizing it. So COVID is a sneaky, heartless bitch, and we shouldn't take it lightly, even if we think we got off cheaply with no symptoms. So the American Heart Association recently released an expert opinion on how people should return to exercise after recovering from COVID. There are different recommendations for people who suffered COVID at different levels. So the first category of people is people who tested positive for COVID but had no symptoms at all. So for them, the recommended rest period is 2 weeks from your first positive test. Next is for people who tested positive and then suffered mild symptoms. For these people, it's 2 weeks of rest from the time of recovery. Yes, from the time of recovery, not from the time of the test. I'm stressing this point because most people will fall into this category. So after 2 weeks of recovery, you get a medical assessment done, and if there is no sign of damage, then you can resume training after 2 weeks. Finally, people who were hospitalized with COVID. These people should get heart imaging done while they were hospitalized. If their medical health assessment comes out clear, then they can follow the same protocol as the people with mild symptoms, that is, they can resume exercise 2 weeks post-recovery. However, if your health assessment shows heart or lung damage, then you should hold off for at least 3 to 6 months depending on your doctor's recommendation. Okay, so now your 2-week recovery period is over. Should you just jump back into exercising full pelt? Absolutely not. Even though you might be fine, there's absolutely not worth the risk to put that much stress on your body in such a quick period of time. The effects of the disease are relatively unknown, and it could have done some damage to your body that could have gone completely undetected. Therefore, it's much better to slowly reintegrate your exercise. So now I'm going to lay out a protocol to reintegrate exercise back into your life if you've recovered from COVID. Please keep in mind that I'm not a doctor. This is just the protocol that I have followed to reintegrate exercise back into my life. So the process that I've decided to follow is to go through a deload and then reload phase. So what I'm going to do now is break this down into 3-week phases. In week 1, I'm going to be operating at 50 to 60% of my maximum capacity. Week 2, I move to operating at 60 to 70% of my maximum capacity. Finally, in week 3, I will move to 70 to 80% of my maximum capacity. During this 3-week phase, I'm going to be focusing primarily on movement, rebuilding my strength, rebuilding my flexibility. However, if you're someone who relies on heavy cardio-based workouts, I would recommend that you switch to an alternate form of training during this phase so that you can rebuild your cardiovascular strength at a steady pace. Another consideration is recovery between sets. Don't push yourself too heavily in the set and allow yourself time to recover after the set. Let your heart rate come down and then look to do the next set. I realize that this might stretch out your workouts a bit longer, but that extra time is worth the risk reduction it brings. I know it's frustrating to be stuck in a room by yourself, not being able to exercise, not being able to socialize, where you're just stuck with your thoughts. It can have an impact on your mental health. And on top of that, when you start to lose all the strides that you made at the gym or at your running or whatever exercise you were doing, it really hurts. Even I've lost around 4.5 kilos and a lot of it was muscle. And before I had COVID, I could run 12 to 15 kilometers, and at the early stages of my recovery, I would get breathless climbing stairs. It stings, but I know I will rebuild it, and I will rebuild it in a safe manner. And you know what? Being the smaller size and being unable to do the same thing that I've been doing at the same intensity has made me look at alternative forms of exercise. For example, I've started doing a bit more yoga, I've started doing a bit more movement training, I've been experimenting with handstands, things I wasn't doing earlier because I was quite comfortable with my routine. This has pulled me out of that routine and made me try new things, and I'm actually really enjoying it. So please don't be disheartened by what you've lost. Look at what you have to look forward to. Enjoy the process of rebuilding yourself, and I reckon you'll learn a lot from it. That's all for today's video, guys. I hope you take this information seriously. Stay strong, stay resilient, and most importantly, stay safe.